Hi, it's Jackie here from the LGFA, and we're on our what will be, I would imagine, our final call of the year with our expert panel. We're missing Kiva Morgan and we're missing Nadine Doherty, but we do have Michelle Ryan, former Waterford player who starred for the county for the guts of 20 years. Michelle, a stellar inter-county career. And Denise Masterson, Dublin's 2010 TG4 All-Ireland winning captain, who knows all about what it's like to climb the steps of the Hogan stand and pick up a piece of silverware. And that's what we're here to talk about. As we have two TG4 All-Ireland finals on Sunday, Croke Park, 1:15 p.m. it's Meath against Westmeath, and the winners will win the Mary Quinn Memorial Cup and also play senior championship football in 2021, which is what you were hoping for, Denise, I have to say, right from the start. So at least there will be a Leinster senior championship next year, Denise.
Yeah, exactly, and really looking forward to it. I think it should be a really good game, and I think I was really effusive in my praise of me the last day when we were discussing the semi-finals, and I didn't get a chance maybe to talk. Westmeath had some super performers on the day as well, like the Dillon sisters were fantastic, and I just thought Meath were moving the ball so quickly, and in fairness to Westmeath, they did too. It was just a very different game, but I think it's going to, hopefully if both teams go at it, I think it's going to be a very fast game, a very physical game actually. I think Westmeath are a very physical team. I thought the Meath midfield, their captain, Shaughnessy, and I just thought she was outstanding for Meath. I just thought all through the team, they'd so many performers in their semi-final that you would be hoping that it wasn't their peak performance of the season nearly, because it was a pretty flawless, I thought, display by Meath, whereas I feel Westmeath would have gone away. They missed a lot in the first and second half. Actually, they missed a bit, and I think they had a lot more to work on. And then with the performances from the Dillon sisters, and then obviously Joanna Marr in midfield, who I really think is such a big player for them. She plays really, really on the edge, and as
I think we're losing that line again. We're losing that line a little bit again, Denise. If you can hear us there, right? We're just losing that line. I'll stick Denise on mute there for a second. We're just losing our line a little bit there again. Michelle, we had some gremlins before we came on out. We'll try and get Denise back on again. Michelle, it's Cork and Dublin in the senior final. I sound a little bit strange now as well on that line. Cork and Dublin on Sunday. Michelle, they've met in 09, 14, 15, 16, 18, and now again. It's a huge rivalry between these two.
It is. It's a massive rivalry, and I suppose it's one of the reasons why we really are going to look forward to this battle, because I mean Cork would have had the upper hand in the big finals up until, their last final win was 2016. And then I suppose Dublin would have felt in the 2018 final, they finally got to beat Cork in a final, and they were absolutely thrilled with that semi-final then last year. So there's no doubt but that they have been the top two teams, I suppose, over the last, with Cork, it's been since 2004 really, so they've been the two teams who've managed to put back-to-back titles together in that period of time. So it's no doubt going to be a very intriguing encounter. To me, I suppose both teams have kind of two different styles, in my opinion, and that's why I find they're intriguing when they come up against each other. I personally find Dublin really play really pacey football. Cork, on the other hand, I think they really like to, while they do have pace in their team, absolutely, they kind of like to slow things down a little bit and slow teams down a little bit, and they're always kind of in a sense, they seem like sometimes they're trudging through matches, but they're not. They're very productive in that. They're very good. They're patient, and sometimes even when they're giving performances, they might look like they're not playing that well. They're still there and thereabouts at half time. If there's still very little between the teams coming up to the final whistle, I can guarantee you they have that endurance in them. They have that fight in them. It's something that kind of is there from the Eamon Ryan era, that you go till the final whistle, and there's nothing more fearful, I think, than when you are playing against Cork and you're maybe 2 or 3 points down and you're coming up to the last 2 or 3 minutes in a game. They have this belief in them that they can grind these things out. Now, Look, I think it's going to be a very intriguing encounter in the sense that, you know, those two styles coming up against her, people would think that Dublin probably have the upper hand with the momentum they've been building the last few years. But I've been impressed with Cork, especially against Kerry, and how they ground out a victory maybe when they weren't performing too well. Obviously, you know, got very good early scores against Galway in the semi-final too. The two goals coming in the first half provided them a cushion for the rest of the game, to be honest, that Galway just couldn't claw back. So I think it's going to be very interesting and very hard one to call.
Denise, coming back to you. Hopefully you've rectified the gremlins in the system.
Sorry.
You're all right. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, so Westmeath against Meath. Just how important is it, or how pleased were you that two Leinster teams got through to the final, and that there will be two Leinster teams in the senior championship next year, Denise?
Oh, I mean, it's vital. Like, you know, you need to have competition within the province. You know, for Dublin being the only team there, and I suppose even in the last few years that maybe they're winning Leinster quite easy as well when there were teams there. I mean, I think Meath and Westmeath now facing off in a final, like it can only be good for Leinster football. You know, you don't want to see Dublin dominate so much that those teams, you know, feel like they're, you know, and I just think that this final, and particularly for Meath, I mean, I know I keep saying that they're going now into their, you know, their third final in a row and that, but I just thought with their performance and that, you know, they're not just going to be in Leinster. I really feel that these two teams are building and competing, you know, that way. I suppose for Westmeath, you know, it'd be a little bit worrying in terms of they were a Division 1 league side coming up against a Division 3 league side in the semi-final, and that they found it a much tougher battle maybe than Meath did against Clare. But, I mean, it's huge for Leinster football. Of course it is. You have to have competition within the province, you know, and like I said, it was a little bit easy maybe for Dublin, and, you know, it's only a good thing if these two teams are competing in an Ireland intermediate final and that one of them has to go senior next year. So, and hopefully it's a really good game.
I was looking through the record books, Denise, in terms of All-Ireland winning captains. Sinead Ahern has the chance to become the first ever, and I'm open to correction here, but I think I'm right, the first ever captain to win 4 times in a row. Oh,
I mean, what an achievement that'd be, you know, and when Michelle's talking about the rivalry with Cork and Dublin, you know, and meeting 5 times or whatever, and, you know, Cork have won 4 of them, and like I was on that losing Dublin team twice, you know, it's such a, and so was Sinead Ahern, you know, so for her now to be going and captaining Dublin, you know, for their 4th All-Ireland in a row, like, it's amazing. And look, she's a super player. She's been with Dublin for so long, and she's always been such an instrumental player for Dublin as well. You know, it's what an achievement it would be for Sinead, you know, and for Dublin. And, you know, you wouldn't know how many more years either Sinead will be playing or representing for Dublin. You know, I would say she's coming towards the end. I mean, she's the oldest on the panel now, which I find quite hilarious for how young she was maybe when we were on it. But I mean, she's the oldest on the panel now. So, I mean, what an achievement it'd be, you know. And like Michelle was talking there about Cork and the difference in pace, you know, and I was looking back at some notes I had taken last year in the semi-final between Dublin and Cork, you know, which I thought was a super game. But, you know, you were so complimentary in terms of their patience and stuff, whereas I probably thought Cork were a little bit pedestrian, I think was the word. You know, but at the same time it was a super game. It was only in patches, but I felt that Dublin's pace, and I really feel that Cork will have to match that a little bit, you know, this year. And, you know, don't get me wrong, last year's semi-final was a super competitive game, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was probably one of my highlights of last year's championship. But I just think the pace and the physicality of Dublin, you know, I'd still have to be tipping them. So please God, Sinead will be lifting it for the 4th time in a row.
And actually, one thing I actually noticed from, I was looking over some of the, I suppose, the stats with regards to Cork, and last year the Cork played 7 games in the championship, and in those 7 games they scored 24 goals, and the only game they didn't score a goal against was Dublin. And do you know what I mean? So like, Cork, they build up slow, they attack pretty, you know, they're very, very patient, as I said, and then someone will come off the shoulder, someone will cut into that space and get those goals. Like Dublin, it's very hard to get goals against Dublin. And like this year to date, Cork have played, 3 games? They've scored 10 goals already so far. Do you know what I mean? And the 2 goals the last day were very crucial in the first half, as I said. So like Cork will need to bring that spark to their attack, and they do have players who can do that. We've seen that so far. I do think maybe like someone, I know Emer Scally isn't available to this year, but the type of pace and electrifying kind of movement she brings are things that can trouble Cork. Now, we've obviously mentioned Saoirse Noonan before, and maybe she had a slightly quiet game the last day, but she has the ability to really be a danger to, and kind of tie up some of the Dublin defenders when she's on her game.
Yeah, no, it's in true. 10-40, I think Cork have scored so far, which is decent shooting. Michelle, so set up for a cracking game. We'll look back a little bit. So Fermanagh were junior champions since we spoke last. Probably on the previous form book, a little upset there. But Fermanagh, we did speak about their hunger coming into the final after losing last year's one. So congratulations to Fermanagh. It was a cracking game at Parnell Park. Michelle, if I can ask you, just in terms of the Galway Cork semi-final, have you ever been in a position before where you've had to cope with weather conditions leading to a last minute change of venue?
Not that I can remember personally in my inter-county career that I suppose a venue would change so close to a throw-in time. No, it hasn't happened to me. But like, having said that, look, as a recently retired county player, like, I have absolutely nothing but sympathy for the girls that were involved that day, and I can fully understand the emotions that would have been there, and the exasperation as well, because as every inter-county player knows, I mean, we're all well rehearsed in the preparation of games. Like, our schedule before games isn't just something that's thought of on that morning or just put together that morning. All these things beforehand are pretty well planned out. I mean, I've had managers who plan them down to the very minute. I mean, you're doing things at 11:27, you're doing something else at 12:13. Things are, a lot of thought and effort is put into things like that. And so, look, any disruption to a schedule is very off-putting. It's very off-putting, even in a training schedule, not to mind in a match schedule. So I absolutely can understand the frustration that would have been there, and I can understand why it might be said also, that would have had an impact on performances maybe, and maybe momentum at the start of a game and so on. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Denise, Cork obviously seemed to adapt better on the day, and it was a comprehensive victory for them on the day against Galway. I suppose they've had that experience now of Croke Park, whatever way it came about. Is that a good thing for Cork going into this final, that they've had that experience of playing there in a semi-final, albeit they didn't know until the day itself that they were going to be there?
Yeah, well, I think they had two championship starts in the Cork team that day who had never played in Croke Park before. I mean, I know when you think of a Cork team and people not playing in Croke Park, it's funny because they have so much experience in Croke Park, but I think they had two girls on the team that day. I think Erica O'Shea, and I just can't think of the other one at the moment. I think that was their first time getting to start a championship game in Croke Park. So of course for them it was good. I don't think that when it's, I suppose, it was such a last minute change, and that it's not like their plan will be the same as going forward now into the final. It'll be a completely different run of events that day, but of course it's going to be, they got to experience the pitch and the size and the pace of the ball, and it can only stand you in good stead when you get to experience that, and and just on the Galway team as well, I suppose for me, I don't maybe feel we celebrated them enough, and after the championship, because there were a couple of players that stood out for me for Galway, and just to change the narrative maybe a bit on it, like, I just really would like to highlight, for me, Sinead Burke, I think she has to be one of the best defenders in the country. I thought when they were playing against against Monaghan, I thought Cora Courtney was pulling all the strings until Sinead Burke moved on to her, and I mean, she just completely shut it down. I just thought she was immense for Galway that day, and no more than Olivia Dibley and Louise Ward in midfield, and Nicola Ward. I just think Galway had such a good team, and I mean, I know there are pains to say that the results was not impacted by any events that day, but and I'm sure it wasn't, Cork better team on the day, but just for the Galway players, I suppose maybe a little bit of a disappointing end to it, never mind the loss, that way, but just that, they might not have had maybe a strong season this year, but that there are some super players within that squad, and you know, maybe just to highlight that in the aftermath of their defeat in the semi-final. But of course, it'll stand to the Cork team having been there. But I mean, like, the majority of the team have been there. How many times since, I don't know, how many times, Michelle, have you that stat there? Since 2005, it's either been a Cork or Dublin win since 2005. I think Galway winning in 2004 was the last time anyone was there. So, you know, Cork are well seasoned at playing and running out in Croke Park. So, and I mean, it's such a strange year anyway, you know, so.
Yeah, it took a strange turn, all right. Denise, I'm looking at the clock. Do you have to nip away there?
We'll have to depart, Jackie, yes.
Well, listen, if you want to slip away there quietly, I really appreciate all your contributions over the last few weeks. Denise, very much appreciated. That's Denise Masterson, Dublin's 2010 breakthrough TG4 All-Ireland Senior Championship winning captain. Denise, thanks a lot. And if we're not talking to you before Christmas, best wishes to you and the family.
Happy Christmas, guys. Take care. Enjoy the
Thanks
weekend.
a lot. That's Denise Masterson. Michelle, we're going to stay with you. We have a few minutes left on the show. Denise is right. Since 2004 is the last county outside of Cork or Dublin to win the senior title. I think Cork have won 11 in that time, going for 12. Dublin have won 4, going for 5 now. They're 5th in total, going for 4 in a row as well. You know, I suppose any time these two counties meet, you can say it's an era-defining game. Just from the outside looking in, I think the roles have reversed a little bit in that maybe when Cork were in their pomp, they had the more experienced players and you know, the players that Denise has referenced so many times that can pull the game out of the fire and show that little bit of experience and composure to get Dublin out over the line. Whereas when Cork were on top, maybe it was a case of the Breed Stacks and the Bridge Corkers and the Arenas, and the list goes on. Now it's Dublin with Lindsay and Sinead and so many more, even Carla Rowe stepping up to the plate and showing leadership qualities far beyond her years. Where are you with the verdict on this one? I know you're in the commentary box as well on Sunday beside Brian Tyers, and it's his 20th year at TG4 All-Ireland Finals, and in the 20th year of the partnership, what a man and a brilliant commentator, absolutely top class. So where are you with this final, Michelle? Where's your head at? Because I know you when you think about matches, you think clinically and it's analytical and it's with your head. What are you thinking?
To be honest, I think my head is telling me Dublin, but I also have this feeling that Cork are going to bring an awful tough and stiff challenge to it, but Dublin might just have more in the tank, I think, and more in the bench as well. I think even when you consider, like, obviously there were question marks there about Sinead Ahern and her injury that she sustained, and she came out during the week saying that she hopes to be absolutely fine. But even if she isn't, I mean, we've seen in the last number of years that Dublin have coped with the fact that Nicole Owens has been injured for an All-Ireland final. Noelle Healy didn't start an All-Ireland final. And, you know, like, they still managed to get over the line. They still had the strength and depth in the bench. And I know how much McBowen hates that phrase of having the strength and depth and so on. But it is true. It really is true. Like, they have players there that are just chomping at the bit to come in and take over. And, you know, the likes of Caoimhe O'Connor has kind of become now known for, you know, coming on in that last maybe 10-15 minutes and adding a bit of impetus into the forwards, being a massive scoring threat. And I just think that maybe they just have a little bit more energy to them, a little bit more bite to them. As I said, a little bit more. Do you know what? I think the bench for Dublin had an impact in the Armagh game as well. I really do. I think if Armagh didn't have the strength to bring onto the team, they've been coping so well with the Dublin game up until, you know, they probably tired a little bit. And when Dublin were tiring, or maybe injuries started to creep in, they had people to refresh and kind of push them on that little bit. Now, having said that, look, with Cork, I know only too well, you know, you at your peril do you write off Cork, and I wouldn't say I'm writing them off at all. Like I said, the one thing about them is they know how to win games. They know how to grind out victories. Some of their key players and star players over the last number of years have been coming good in the last 2 games in particular. Ciara O'Sullivan, I suppose, really stood up to the plate there the last day. Melissa Duggan, I mean, what a fantastic player she is. incredible athleticism. I mean, she's just follows you, marking you all over the pitch. She's just incredible at making a nuisance of herself in a positive way as a defender. But as well, we saw the last day the attacking capability she has and the danger she poses going forward. So there's no doubt that Mick Bowen will be looking at that and making sure that, you know, that doesn't happen too easily. Now, he has fantastic players in his forward line. We've spoken about Lindsay Davy numerous times, but the likes of her, the likes of Carla Rowe, they really do filter back and filter deeper in around the midfield area, you know, to help out their defence, to gather on ball, to support going forward and attack at lightning speed. So I don't think Melissa Duggan will be left wandering up the pitch with too much space in front of her or around her either. As I said, look, my head is saying Dublin, but I do think I think there won't be that much in it. I think maybe 3 points at the end of the day.
Okay. So they're going for Dublin. I remember not backing against them, when I was used to be covering ladies football and reporting on matches prior to this role, Michelle. There was once I backed against Cork, right, or predicted against Cork, and that was when they played Dublin. I think it was a quarter final, and you know, Dublin were 9 points up at one stage, so I can probably be forgiven for that one. Cork came back and overturned it. So briefly, Michelle, we've a couple of minutes left. The intermediate final is Meath and Westmeath, and Denise has discussed it there. We look back on the respective semi-finals. Meath comfortable, Westmeath probably put to the pin of their collar. So who's happier coming into this game, that a Meath team that has won comprehensively and is growing a building head of steam, or a Westmeath team that started off like a steam train and probably got that test that they probably privately would have wanted against Roscommon?
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the test coming into the All-Ireland Final is probably the biggest thing for them. I mean, I have to say now, I really genuinely, and I think I predicted here that I thought Clare were really going to give me a good battle. I did mention that consistency might be a problem, but I was not expecting the result that ensued, 4-13 to 4 points. But I mean, that just, I suppose, goes to show that, you know, Meath are building up nicely and we're very focused. I mean, the one thing about being in All Ireland Final for the last 2 years is a semi-final, then the following year becomes a very dangerous place to be, and complacency can sometimes set in. And it was fair play to me that they definitely didn't let that happen. They were obviously very focused on the task ahead, and, you know, nothing was going to do. But I mean, obviously an unrelenting kind of attack as well. You know, a 4-13 to 4 points, as I said. Now Westmeath versus Roscommon, much closer game. Like I was following it, and it was very, very nip and tuck. You know, score for score for a long period of time. Westmeath, I mean, when you see the likes of Ciara Blundell and Leona Archibald, and, you know, they're experienced players as well. Obviously, as we know, they come down from senior, so they have that drive in them to go back up to senior. The only thing I would say is when you come down, there's no guarantee that anything, you know, you're dealing with a team. They're coming up against a Meath team now who are very hurt over the last number of years, and obviously will hopefully have brought something else to their game from their point of view to get them over the line. Meath, I suppose, you know, they're going to have to be very, very, Westmeath are going to have to be very wary of that, I think. I think it's a very, very hard one to call, to be honest. I think it could go right down to the wire.
Maybe extra time and 30-metre kicks. Who knows, Michelle?
Who knows?
Michelle, we'll see you up there on Sunday in the big smoke, as we call it, down here in the sunny southeast. Great having you on the last few weeks, Michelle. Really appreciate your expert analysis, your honesty, and your contribution. Really, really thank you most sincerely for joining us. And we will see you all going to plan on Sunday. Thanks a lot, Michelle.
Thanks, Jackie.